Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and to live their dream healthy lifestyle. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my calorie deficit journey and the specific calorie deficit that I just headed into on Friday. So, I'm going to be talking about how I personally go about calorie deficit with myself. I'm going to spill the tea on what my protocols are, what my pro tips are, and coming from a person that used to really restrict and diet super hard to now having more of a sustainable dieting mindset. How I'm going to go about this and get results still, but do it in a way that doesn't make me feel just miserable AF and want to quit the whole time, because I have definitely been at both sides of the spectrum. So I'm really excited to go through this, and I'm excited to embark on this cut together. I might even do little cut updates on each podcast episode because I personally love hearing a little bit about how someone's calorie deficit journey is going and kind of hearing their feedback. And I think it is also helpful for you guys to hear and to hear the rawness and the realness that comes with being in a fat loss phase. So I'm really excited to dive into it. So I am planning on losing a little bit of body fat for summer, and I am embarking on what I'm going to call a mini cut because I am just going to do this for 8 weeks. That being said, it's still going to be a very sustainable 8 weeks. I chose 8 weeks because I don't really have a lot of fat to lose, and that's not me bragging. I just keep myself in a pretty lean position all year round with having a lot of healthy habits and not allowing myself to go back and forth and to have those giant fluctuations. And that's the process that I teach my clients as well, is like, hey, let's stay in a good, comfortable range for maintenance. That way, if you want to lose a little bit of body fat, you're already at a good starting point and you're not, 10, 15, 20 pounds behind. So we're going to do a mini cut for 8 weeks. I am hoping to lose between 4 to 8 pounds. I say 4 to 8 because I deem healthy, sustainable fat loss if you lose between 0.5 pounds to 1 pound per week. So that is what I am shooting for as well. And I am really excited because I have some fun things coming up. Obviously, summer is going to be here in like 8 to 12 weeks or so. Honestly, I live in Arizona, so it's like pretty much summer year round here, bikini weather year round. But I'm going to Stagecoach and then I'm going to Mexico, I think twice in May. So I want to just like look and feel my best. And I also was just kind of feeling a little bit stagnant in my fitness journey. And I just needed something to kind of like reinvigorate me and motivate me. And going into a cut just sounded honestly like really fun. And I always believe that when you're heading into a cut, you have to go into it with a good mindset already. If you're going into a cut thinking, oh my gosh, I hate myself, I hate my body, I don't want to cut, I don't want to diet, like you're not going to be successful when it comes to being a calorie deficit. I have put myself into a calorie deficit before when I'm not in like the best headspace and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do the deficit, but I know I should. If you feel like you should do a calorie deficit, you probably shouldn't because you're not going to feel motivated. You're going to want to quit. You might have a little bit of like that binge restrict cycle that can happen. So I am in a really good spot. All that being said, I'm in a really good spot mentally to head into this. And I'm honestly just excited to share my journey with you all for education purposes. A lot of our purpose ladies are heading into a cut right now, which is so exciting because it's like the perfect time right before summer. So they're all going to get this information as well. And if you right now are maybe interested or thinking about heading into a calorie deficit, this is the perfect episode for you. So I'm going to be explaining in this episode about my personal cut protocols, but I also have a whole episode dedicated to like calorie deficits 101, how to calculate your calorie deficit, my pro tips, and a lot of other information when it comes to just expectations with a fat loss phase. So if you want to listen to that, and that kind of pertains more specifically to you, obviously, because you can actually like create your own protocols while listening to that episode. That is episode 7. So if you want to go back to that, you definitely can. But for today's episode, I'm talking about me, and I love to talk about me, so this should be a fun episode. So let's go over my starting stats, and then I'm going to go into what my specific protocols look like for me and my body. And before I go into that, I will say that these are my protocols. They're probably not going to work for you unless you are the same height, weight, activity level, hormones, schedule, status, all of that stuff. If you are not, then you can start scrolling and continue to not follow my protocols, okay? But if you are exactly the same as me, which I can guarantee you're not, then you can't follow my protocols. But I will say that a lot of people follow someone else's protocols and then are disappointed when they're not seeing results. And it's literally because they are following someone else's protocols. Like your protocols should be designed for you, your body, your metabolism, your hormones. And like, for instance, when I'm coming up with a client's plan, each plan I create for a client looks totally different from another because everyone is so different when it comes to their like body stats, but also their preferences, how they're feeling day to day and their schedule. So don't follow my protocols is what I'm trying to say. What you can do though is keep in mind how balanced and non-restricted my protocols are, and that doing these things is going to yield me fat loss, and it does not require any extremes. Like when I used to diet, I used to eat like 1,200 calories, do crazy hit workouts, restrict my favorite foods, not go out to eat, feel like I couldn't travel, couldn't be social. And it was really, really sad, honestly, and really held me back from just living life. And now being able to do a calorie deficit and have a lot more balance. Like, yes, I have this time length and I have this goal in mind, but I am not in a restrictive mindset whatsoever. So that's what I kind of want you all to pay attention to when I am sharing with you my protocols. Not so much like the numbers and what I'm doing necessarily, but like what are the things I am doing, like big picture wise, as well as like how sustainable they are and how it's nothing extreme. I'm not going to say, hey, I can't do this. The word can't is not in my vocabulary when I am referring to my health and fitness. Only the word can. I can do whatever I want, but I'm going to choose to do certain things that are more advantageous to my goals. So, in my calorie deficit, I am heading into a 20% deficit, which is still above 1,800 calories for me. It's actually like around 1,900, which is pretty cool. Again, I am tall and I have some muscle on me, so I have the luxury of having higher calories. And I was at maintenance for a long period of time. I have been at maintenance since like August, September-ish. So it has been a long time of me spending not tracking my food or tracking in maintenance calories. So my metabolism is chef's kiss, ready to go. That is where a lot of people run into trouble, is that they try to head into a deficit, but they have been under eating. So their body doesn't respond to a calorie deficit because your metabolism is already low. And then if you wanted to actually be in a deficit, you would be at like super low calories that would be damaging to your hormones and your overall just quality of life. So since I have not been dieting for a long time, I was able to head into a deficit around like 400 calories and am going to be able to make progress, which is really exciting. So definitely nothing extreme. I took away around, like I said, like 400 calories. So that should hopefully get me between that like 0.5 pounds to 1 pound per week. And that is the major change in my programming from everything else. Everything else is pretty much the same. I'll go over the one other little tweak that I am making, but for the most part, the deficit is the biggest challenge and the biggest thing that I am focusing on right now. Other than that, I am doing 8 to 10K steps per day. I don't know why I wrote down 8 to 10. I must be doing too much client work. I'm doing more so like the 10 to 12K range. So more in like that 10K is kind of what I am shooting for. And that's something I have been doing. So super easy to just keep on continuing on with that habit. Lifting wise, my lifts do not change when I am in a deficit. And I also don't recommend you change your lifts or your workouts when you are in a deficit either. You don't need to be doing like higher reps or anything like that. I just do my same training I do when I am in maintenance as I do when I am in a calorie deficit. So I'm focusing on 4 times a lift, 4 times a week of lifts. And I am doing 1 day of like back and biceps, 1 day of a push day, and then 2 leg days. So that is my split for the week. Foods wise, I am focusing on 90% whole foods. Typically when I'm in maintenance, I'm more of like the 80 to 90 kind of gal, but when I'm in a deficit and I have like kind of a time length of something I want to achieve, I like to get a little bit more narrowed down and a little bit more specific, especially when it comes to nutrients, because I want to make sure that I am fueling my body as well as I can. So I'm going to focus on eating 90% whole foods and then 10% more so like fun foods and processed foods. So for instance, today I'm eating like pretty clean for all of my meals, but like for dessert, I'm having some Oreos and my Ninja Creamy. Like that's kind of the balance that I'm having. And I'm not going to restrict myself if I want to have a dirty martini on Friday. I'm going to have that, and I probably will have that, okay? So I am not going to restrict myself still, even being in a deficit, but I am going to more so eat more whole foods, and that just keeps me full as well in a calorie deficit. Eating higher volume foods, which tend to be whole foods like fruits and veggies, really keep me fuller for longer. So that is a major plus. Another thing that I am going to focus on is getting 7 hours of sleep. At least 7 to 9 is more ideal. I like the 8 to 9 better for myself, but we can't have that every single night. But I'm going to focus on recovery. A lot of times when women aren't losing weight, it's literally because they're not allowing their body to recover and to like sleep and de-stress. So I'm really focusing on stress management for myself. One thing I am holding myself accountable to is not getting on my phone in the morning. I was telling my boyfriend about this, and he's like literally wanted to snatch my phone from me if I get it out in the morning. So that's my accountability. But that is something that I'm trying to do as well, as like actively manage lowering my cortisol and doing things that I know are going to stress me out, like checking my phone first thing in the morning and seeing every single message come in. Even though it's not like stressful, I'm not getting these like crazy texts or anything, it still does spike kind of that cortisol first thing when I'm looking at my phone. So I'm going to focus on getting my sleep, not going on my phone in the morning. And then I'm also watching my caffeine intake as well. As I'm sipping a Diet Coke out of a wine glass, it's fine, but I'm trying to just have one coffee in the morning. And then if I want to have like a Diet Coke or something like lower in caffeine throughout the day, I can have the option for that, but I'm trying not to do that like every single day. And then cardio wise, this is also a common misconception when it comes to being in a deficit. I am not a crazy increasing my cardio whatsoever. So I am sticking with my one dance class that I'm doing a week. Oh my gosh, sad story, you guys. This is a tangent, but I was going to the Zumba class for 2 years. I learned all of her choreography. She was amazing. And she actually quit and left the gym. So I now can't take her class. So that was really sad. But now I am going to go to a different dance class. Anyways, that was a really like long-winded story for saying that basically my favorite teacher went away and now I need to find a new class. But I'm going to still go to one dance class a week because I feel like it's really good for my brain and it's just fun cardio. And then I'm also going to incorporate one extra 30-minute incline walk. That is like the extra amount of cardio I'm incorporating. So just a 30-minute incline walk. And I am probably going to split that up into 2 sessions, one 15-minute session on both upper body days. So that is what I'm going to do for getting my cardio in. So those are pretty much all of my protocols when it comes to this calorie deficit phase. Again, very, very sustainable. I'm focusing on 0.5 pound to a pound per week of fat loss. And how I am assessing progress is I am doing weigh-ins daily. I really think that there is power in developing a really healthy relationship with the scale where you can weigh in daily and you let it affect your whole day. I like to think about the scale as like someone that doesn't know you, they're telling you a number, right? Like the scale doesn't know that you have your period. The scale doesn't know that you ate a whole thing of miso last night. So you have some water retention going on. The scale doesn't know that you're constipated. So basically it's telling you data, right? Like it's someone else telling you data. So I like to do weigh-ins daily. I have a scale that I bought on Amazon that syncs to my phone. That's pretty cool. It's the brand Renpho. I really like it personally because it syncs to my phone. And I also have the app called Happy Scale. I love numbers, so like that's why I love all this stuff. But it basically like shows a graph on how kind of your progress is looking. And I also think that, if you're in a vulnerable state with the scale right now, and it's taken me years to have a good relationship with the scale. So don't fear if you are in that spot right now. Having someone to also like assess that progress can be super helpful. I know for a lot of my clients, they're like, oh my gosh, like the scale spiked today, but I go in and I'm like, but you had your period, you were sick, you didn't go to the bathroom. Like that is why. So I think kind of just learning about yourself of like, okay, if the scale is up, ask yourself like, why could that be? Like for instance, my scale was up this morning actually, and I could have said, oh my gosh, I gained weight. This is awful. I'm in a cut. Why is this happening to me? And taking on that victim mindset. Instead, I ask myself, okay, why might the scale be up? Oh, you're having terrible allergies, so you just feel inflamed. You didn't get as good of a sleep as you normally do. Boom, that is probably why the scale is up. So being very subjective when it comes to the scale. And then I'm also doing progress photos weekly. So that way I can assess not only scale weight, but also my progress pictures. I think it's very helpful to have both of those because sometimes the scale doesn't go down, but your pictures look wildly different. And I think it is so important to have both forms of data measurement so that way you can have an actual like picture of what's going on. And then bonus points if you have a coach or someone that is looking over your stuff and can actually like take a non-biased view on what's going on, because when you're in your own body, it can be easy to think, oh my gosh, I'm not making any progress. But when someone else looks at it and can see it from a bunch of different points of view, it's a lot easier and more apparent to realize like, wow, like we are making progress. So that is basically how I am going about this little mini cut for myself. And I am super, super excited for this. I want to give little updates on each podcast up until I am done with it. And I think that will also hold me accountable, which would be fantastic. So I am going to do that on each podcast episode. So make sure to stay tuned. But hopefully you all enjoyed this episode. Make sure to follow me on Instagram as well. I'm going to be posting a lot more content as far as it goes with calorie deficit and just updates and all of that stuff. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever platform you're on, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.